Hi, so welcome to the first lecture in developing your intuitive healing. As you can see, I'm surrounded by lots of goodies here, and I'm going to be taking you through some of the methods how you can cleanse and maintain and care for your crystals. This is so very important because, like everything in life, if you really want something to endure and sustain and have longevity, then you need to look after it. We all know that in our personal lives and even with ourselves. So crystals are just the same, and if anything, it's more important because we're using them as tools to clear stagnant energy, to cleanse and harmonize, which means they actually pick up those energies. They're like little mini hoovers, if you like. So whenever we've used them on treating ourselves or in a room where they're clearing space, where lots of people might come in and socialize, then they will be hoovering up those energies, and those energies will stick to them, if you like. So we need to then clean them afterwards. And although this course isn't teaching you how to treat others, I would just make the point here that obviously, being a crystal therapist, this is absolutely essential, because if I was to use a stone on one client, complete the treatment, and that stone has sucked in stagnant energies from that client, and then I have another treatment straight after with a different client, if I didn't cleanse that same stone in between and I used it for both clients, the second client may pick up some of the energies from the first client, which obviously would be really dangerous and not an authentic or integral way to be a crystal therapist. I wouldn't be acting with that integrity. So it's really essential. And when I learnt my crystal therapy course, my diploma course, our teacher was really, really strict about this. And, we really did need to adhere to this rule. So there are lots of ways you can cleanse your crystals after you've used them on yourself for a chakra layout, or if you've got them in a room and you just sense that they're needing a clean. And again, trust your intuition with this. It's a bit like having plants in a house. I don't know if you feel this, but whenever I walk past one of my plants, I feel like they're speaking to me, and sometimes I'll just think, oh, I need to water that plant. And intuitively, I'm just getting a sense, a hit from that plant. Maybe they're actually sending me messages through hormones in the air, because that is scientifically proven that plants do communicate using hormones. But I am feeling that that plant needs to be watered. So crystals are just the same. If you pick them up and you think, this doesn't feel quite right, trust that and know that you need to then cleanse it, okay? So just going back a little bit into course number 1, where we ignited your healing potential and we talked a lot about energy. If you remember, energy is all around us. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed into another kind of type of energy or form of energy. So the ways that we can experience energy in our own lives, because often it's invisible, but one way is through colour, like seeing a rainbow and the refracted elements of colour within a rainbow, the different colours. But the other ways are sound, so music is energy. So that's a really good example of energy in its different frequencies, the different notes of music. And of course there is also light. So how light is refracted through the droplets of water in the sky when we see a rainbow, and that helps to produce those different colours. We can use light to cleanse as well. So I'm going to demonstrate some of the things that you can do here, and then later on in the course I'm going to go outside and you'll see some other ways of cleansing and energizing crystals. But for now, this is just about cleansing them. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to cleanse crystals using sound. Now this is brilliant because it doesn't affect the crystals adversely. Some crystals are susceptible to being dissolved by water or salt water. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but there are particular families of crystals that you need to be careful how you cleanse. But sound doesn't affect crystals adversely. Obviously, if you were to whack a huge gong right next to a crystal, that would be painful for the crystal. But with being sensible, it's really a very good way to cleanse. So what we're doing fundamentally here is we are going to, now what's the word here, kind of agitate, if you like, the stagnant energy that is held within and around the crystal. So this is one of my favourite crystals. It's apophyllite, and I bought it years ago, and I absolutely love this crystal. It's one of my true companions. Now, apophyllite, interestingly, has an ability to self-cleanse, but I'm going to use this because it's been sat above my stairs so that it cleanses everyone who walks up the stairs for quite a long time. So I just think it would really benefit from the treat of being cleansed today. But in general, apophyllite, one of the properties is that it's actually able to self-cleanse, a little bit like amethyst as well. So what I'm going to do is pop the apophyllite on this cushion here, and I'm going to use a type of sound that will fragment, shuffle around these stagnant energies and agitate them, because first of all I want to free up those stagnant energies so I can then transform those stagnant energies into a higher frequency. So the way I like to do this personally is by using rattles. This is why I have these here, and you can see this one is a higher noise and this one is a lower noise. So I just pick whichever rattle I am more drawn to, and sometimes I use both. So literally I'm going to shake around the crystal, and I'm going to pick it up as well. While I'm doing it, I can actually feel it's really quite a loud noise, and I can feel the energy around me as well. So actually, I'm going to shake it around me as well, because this is a great way to clear your own aura energy and the room as well. So why not do a bit of your own clearing as well as the crystal? So now you've agitated the stagnant energies, I'm going to take it to, maybe I'll use the other rattle actually as well, because this is slightly lighter. So it's got a different frequency, and I can feel that when I do that to myself. And now I'm going to still agitate, but with a slightly different resonance. So that might be sufficient, but I'm actually going to use my drum as well, just to show you that you can use different sounds. Stronger or lighter, and different areas of the drum will produce different sounds and different rhythms as well. Okay, so I could feel that energy as well. Really interesting to use a drum. So we've agitated the energies, we've brought them alive. What it's important to do now is not stop at this moment, because we need to transform that agitated energy, that stagnant energy, into something higher and lighter. So what I'm going to use is this beautiful singing bowl. So we're actually going to transform the energy now. So we're going to start the singing bowl going. I might do this several times. So when I'm clearing a room after a client has been, then I will walk around the room with this singing bowl. And actually before that, when I'm agitating the energies, I will walk around the room with a rattle, particularly interested in corners of rooms where it's darker. Fabrics can absorb energies, so behind curtains, things like that. And then do the same with the singing bowl, because what you're doing is you're rising the energy. So obviously I'm doing this kind of one-handed at the moment, but if there was somebody else with you, you could ask them to actually hold the crystal while you actually waft the singing bowl as you're playing it under and around the crystal. So that's a really nice way of doing it as well. So that is how you clear space and a crystal, cleanse a crystal with sound. And you can also do it with yourself as well. So actually, just to be consistent, I'm going to just pass the singing bowl up through my chakras because I did the rattle. So to be consistent, I'm going to do the same for myself as well. I'm going to start low at the root chakra. I'm going to get the singing bowl singing and then just pass it up through, which is nice. And I'm feeling intuitively I need to hold it here. So again, I'm trusting my intuition with this. This is what's so lovely when you get to course number 2, because you've ignited your intuition in course number 1 and you're really starting to develop and feel how it is to work with energy now and trust it. Lovely. Okay, so that's sound, and that's brilliant because it doesn't affect the crystal adversely like some liquids might do. Okay, so sound. So the next one is light. So we're going to talk later on about how you can energize crystals in the garden with sunlight, but that's energizing them. Clearing them with light is something a little different. Now, for those of you who are attuned to the Reiki energy, Reiki stands for Universal Life Force Energy in Japanese, and obviously that is to do with light energy, healing light energy. So you can use the intention and your sacred symbols that you will have been given, particularly if you're level 2 trained, and you can project those symbols with the universal life force energy onto the crystals. So I use this a lot in room clearing and with clients. I put crystals in the corners of rooms, under couches, I even spiral them around, and I use my hands to transport those Reiki symbols. So that's a beautiful way of using light energy if you are attuned to the Reiki universal life force energy. So the other way, which I was introduced to when I did a kinesiology course years ago, which is absolutely fantastic for me, because obviously I'm seeing clients often back to front and I don't have much time in between to cleanse and prepare rooms. I make sure I do. I book in a bit of extra time, 15 minutes, to do this cleansing process in between clients. But what makes it super efficient for me is this here. So this is a tri-vortex laser. Now, tri-vortex, if you look them up, do a Google search, tri-vortex have developed a way of putting objects into a chamber where they impregnate the chamber with geometric shapes, the Fibonacci code, shamanic healing codes, and those objects then take on that healing frequency themselves, so they can be then used as tools to help protect, harmonize and balance energy and clear energy. So I bought this laser years ago, and it's amazing for clearing crystals without using water, for rooms, for yourself. If you're in pain, you can apply it on yourself. You have to be careful because it is a laser, so you must never look at the laser directly. So I tend to look away even when I'm putting the laser on the crystals, because obviously the light will be refracted back. So you do need to be careful with it, but it is very, very effective. Now I'm going to demonstrate in a second. I'm sure you're quite excited to see it in action. But first of all, I will read you a little bit from the website, because I like to promote and help promote places that really offer fantastic tools. So tri-vortex technology was first brought about in 1988 by Brian David Anderson. And it says here, tri-vortex technology utilizes a treatment chamber where substances or objects are exposed to a treatment field or of computer-generated geometric patterns and electromagnetic harmonics. A state of organization and cohesion is created in the molecules of whatever substance or object is placed in the field or the chamber. These objects or substances then have unique characteristics that provide many benefits to all living things. Items that have been treated in the tri-vortex chamber provide their beneficial characteristics through the process of sympathetic resonance. So a little bit like we talked about in the first course, that resonance with the quantum field or heart coherence, because we're all energy and molecules, there is that transference and relationship. The foundation product of tri-vortex technology is the tri-vortex disc. Now I have one here and I have worn it myself. You can thread the disc onto a chain and wear it around your neck, or even when my daughter was struggling at school with all the different energies going around, I actually sewed this disc into the waistband of her skirt, so I knew she always had it on her and she wouldn't lose it. So these discs, when this disc is placed in contact with a container of liquid such as water, juice or soup for 1 to 3 minutes, the taste and smell of the liquid is greatly improved. The better taste and smell are indicative of a more coherent molecular structure that allows for better hydration and absorption of the fluid into the body. Proper hydration is key to optimum health, etc. So you can see how this cohesion, this harmonic frequency can really benefit. There are lots of other products on the website for you to have a look at. The disc is just one and the laser is another, but they're actually developing oils and lots of other really interesting things. So I invite you to have a little look at that. And if you're a therapist and you want a quicker but very effective way of cleansing your room and your crystals in between clients, then I really recommend you get one of these lasers. So you'll be okay looking at this because you're doing it through a screen, but I'm going to slightly look away when I do this, but I'm going to move the crystal a bit closer and you'll see the beautiful refraction of light that goes on, because what the laser does is it actually magnifies this beautiful molecular structure within the crystal, which is just amazing. So I don't know if you can see there, but the laser itself is green, and it's making the crystal really, really sparkle. Let's see if I can get it a bit closer for you. And it's a really pretty, I like to say even an angelic or kind of fairy energy, if you believe in angels and fairies. It's really, really beautiful. So what I do is I just intuitively check in with myself, and I do what I'm drawn to do. So I'm just trusting that what I'm doing is what the crystal needs, and sometimes I will pick the crystal up. So in actual fact, the intention will send the light through to the other side of the crystal, but you don't need to do that, because obviously, as we know with molecular science, the laser will go through to the other side, but it just feels nice to make sure that you're giving it a complete cleanse with this lovely wave of frequency and energy. And again, you can do it around yourself. Close your eyes if you're going to do that, and you might be drawn to stay on a certain chakra or place of the body. Maybe you've had some pain somewhere, spiral it up. Just I'm going intuitively, and you can use it also to cleanse the room really quickly. So a really, really useful technique. Try Vortex, look them up. So that's light, and there are some other things that we can do. So there are other substances, readily available substances, that have the ability to absorb stagnant energy. Now these substances won't necessarily transform it, they'll absorb it and take it away, and then you'll need to discard of the substance afterwards. So something I did when I was first learning crystal therapy, I would use rice to take away stagnant energy from crystals. So I chose a ceramic bowl, and there's one here which is one of my favourites that I actually made during my ceramics degree many years ago. So it's nice if you pick something that's kind of personal to you. And then you literally buy some rice. Try and get brown rice because it has a better ability to absorb energies, and obviously if it was organic rice, even better. And you literally pour the rice into the bowl. So I knew I was going to probably put quite a few stones, so I would fill the bowl half full. And the reason I had it next to my bed was I knew if I was doing chakra layouts at night, rather than leave the crystals dirty afterwards, it would be nice to just pop them in the bowl after I use them, and then in the morning I knew that the stagnant energies had been absorbed by the rice. So as you can see, there's rice in there. And then if you were to take your crystals, you literally just bury the crystals in the rice. and leave them to sit in there quite happily. And it's funny, I'm already getting a sense that this crystal's quite pleased to be in there. So that's really nice. You can cover it over or just leave them partially exposed. That's fine. There's room to put a few in there. And it works really, really well. But what you will notice is that quite quickly the rice, you'll just get this sense, you'll think, I need to replace that rice. So do not cook with it afterwards, okay? You need to throw it away. Because obviously if you cooked with it, you would take on and ingest the stagnant energy. So you must throw the rice away. I need to really stress that. But it is also another useful way of cleansing your crystals. So that's really another nice little technique that's quite simple. And again, it won't affect the crystals adversely in any way. So that's rice. And then a second similar approach is if you happen to have, I know it's become much more popular at the moment to use Himalayan salt. So any sea salt, it needs to be sea salt. As we know, salt has an amazing ability to cleanse. And again, this can be used to protect and cleanse your crystals. So I like to use Himalayan salt because it's got a particularly purifying effect. And again, you can take your crystal and sit your crystal in some nice Himalayan salt like this, and maybe just turn it over a little bit once in a while, and that you can have that next to your bed as well, or in your living area, so you can, you know, alternate your stones, cleansing them in there. Again, you need to replace the salt when you intuitively feel it's appropriate to do so. You will know, you will need to trust your instincts. It really depends how long you've left the crystals in there and how many crystals you've had in the salt. So that's another really nice method there as well. So we've done some sound healing, we've done some healing with light, and we've talked about absorbing elements such as the rice and the salt. Now the Himalayan salt can also be dissolved in water to make a salt solution, and you can cleanse crystals with that salt solution. However, there is a caveat here in that some crystals will start to dissolve when placed in water or salt water. Now, I've got a little information sheet that you will have access to as part of this course in the extra documentation, where I've written all of this information down for you about the different ways to cleanse crystals. I'm just going to read out to you the little bit about cleansing them with water, because there are particular stones that you need to be careful of. It's good practice to place a bowl in the garden so you can collect natural rainwater. So you can use that instead of tap water as well. We'll talk more about that later on when I go in the garden. But sea salt can also be dissolved in the water. Typically use 1 teaspoon to a small glass of water, that kind of proportion. Or you can bury them as I have just demonstrated. The salt absorbs the energies, so always make sure you throw away the salt afterwards. But essentially, this is the list of crystals. Be aware that some crystals are susceptible to damage if left in water too long, or at all for some of them. In particular, amber, turquoise, red coral, fire opal, moonstone, calcite, kyanite, kunzite, angelite, azurite and selenite. Now you'll notice there were quite a lot of ites in there. This is an example of selenite, which is a wonderful crystal for cleansing a room, the atmosphere in a room. But if you were to put this in water, it would adversely affect the crystal. So what I suggest you do is use one of these other methods, the sound clearing or light clearing. And as a rule of thumb, if the crystal ends in ite, I-T-E, it is best to cleanse them with one of these other methods, or this final method I'm about to show you, which is using white sage. We're also very fortunate that certain plants offer us up the opportunity to burn their dried leaves and use the smoke that comes off to cleanse crystals. So I'm just going to loosen. This is a lovely bunch of white sage that I bought a while ago, and it continues to serve me really well. So it comes off in these little twigs. Already smells really lovely. And typically what you would do is, again, perhaps be aware that obviously you're working with a naked flame, so be careful. But I'm going to just place the crystal on the cushion for now and light the sage. You can also use, there's also a lovely South American tree that grows in their coastal forests. And you can use Palo Santo wood, which is from these trees. This wood is beautifully scented with mint, pine and lemon, and traditionally is very good for cleansing and has good healing properties. So literally I've just lit the sage, I've blown it out so it's now smouldering, and literally what I do is I hold the crystal under the pathway of the smoke and give it a nice bath in this sage. Sage is a very strong stripper. It's almost like paint stripper, but in terms of energy. So when you use sage, this is fine for the crystal, but be aware that when you sage yourself, as I will do now, so people often do this before energy work, they will send the sage around their aura, under their feet, around both feet, carefully, not catching light to your clothes, around your aura, down your chakras, maybe down the back, using tension. That is stripping away any stagnant energy in my aura and also for the crystal. But you need to put in positive healing energy afterwards because it literally strips out, okay? So it can be quite harsh. So it's fine for the crystal, but for a person, you need to then either use some Reiki energy. I'm just going to blow this out now, having, actually what you need to do really is just almost like a little snuff appliance that you put flames out with. You need to tap it on a surface. So I'm just going to pop it over here for now while I continue, and I'll snuff that out later. It will go out quite quickly, but yes, you need to then put in some positive energy. So what I might do is just use my trivortex laser again and just put in some lovely frequencies from the trivortex light, or I could sit here with my cleansed rose quartz just for a moment and imagine that rose quartz in my aura. Use visualization and intention. So always put in, if you take out stagnant energy with sage, always put back in. So that's the rule of thumb. And Palo Santo is a beautiful smelling wood, which again you just light just the same and use the smoke to cleanse with, and you can use it in rooms as well. So I do hope that has been interesting for you. I love using these tools. It's really fun, and it's great because they're very easily purchasable online, and many of them, like the rice, you might already have in your home. And later on I will share with you some of the ways you can cleanse and energize using the natural elements that we find outside in our natural world. So have a go with your lovely crystals. So if you were with me for course number 1, you will have hopefully purchased your chakra set, and maybe you've already got other crystals that you have in your home as well. And go and kind of visit them and just check out and think, do you need a bit of a cleanse? And practice some of these techniques on your lovely stones and give them a little bit of a treat.